Okay, well, thank you for coming in.
It's okay.
Very kind of you.
Thanks for fixing my amp every time I blow up.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, so we're doing this kind of chatty, podcasty thing, and sort of just getting to hear the story of people who don't necessarily get to talk on podcasts all the time.
And this is definitely my first podcast appearance.
Well, first of many, I'm sure.
Yeah, damn it.
Especially if we can't get any other guests on.
Yeah.
Weekly. What's new this week, Dave?
Well, yeah.
It'll be the new Scandi Noir.
Yeah, let's go for it.
We've got to have a planning meeting for... Yeah, shut up. Okay, so could you introduce us to yourself? Like, where did you grow up? What's your name? All that stuff.
Okay, so my name's Dave. Full name?
Have you got? I don't know your middle name. Do you have?
Oh,
one?
so I have two. It's David James Edward Baker.
Okay.
Just to keep both grandparents happy.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, one of them ones. I grew up in Harrow, which is like that way, about 15 miles maybe, if that.
Yeah.
Not to a particularly musical family. My dad always wanted to like play guitar and stuff, so I think when I started showing an interest, he kind of really pushed it. But yeah, like I was saying to you guys earlier, he like used to race speedway, and then did loads of vintage Formula 1 and like NASCAR. So I grew up around this weird environment of my dad like being either at home or just never there, or like in the garage building an engine until
And
like 6
did
in the
he
morning.
race them as well as, or did he race them and then destroy himself so much that he...
That one. Yeah, so he
okay.
came off,
okay.
like, destroyed his leg, couldn't race anymore, and then was always really good at building anyway. So,
Yeah.
like, kind of found this way into this world. I mean, he made some stuff for Triumph and bits and bobs when he was younger, and, like, you know, putting, like, a 5-speed box into a 3-speed frame on a bike and that kind of weird thing like that. Yeah, so I kind of grew up at, like, Silverstone and Brands Hatch and all of those kind of places.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm the reason why no under 14s can go in the pits at Silverstone, because I fell on a brand new Ferrari when I was 10 with an ice cream.
Ooh.
I like ran at it with this like big like 99, is it called?
Yeah,
like,
with
the
the
flake
flake
in.
in it.
Yeah, ran at it with my dad's friend like walking me around. Tripped over this thing and like fell flat on the bonnet. Ice cream everywhere. Everyone starts shouting. My dad's friend Steve panics, grabs me by the belt and just ran off. And my dad didn't know till I was like 23, but I just couldn't go anymore. And then like one day he was talking about, I was like, that was me, you know. And he's like, what? So
They didn't have posters of you up.
no, I just couldn't go.
Do you know this kid?
Yeah, and then I was like a really dyslexic kid, so I always sort of messed up in... Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
I always fucked up in school, like I was just distracting everyone, and then kind of started playing one day, and he had loads of friends that played anyway, so yeah, they were like, go, learn, you know, like, and they would sort of help me out and stuff. Yeah, and like, that's kind of it really. Went to uni, started doing loads of functions.
So when you went to uni, what did you study? It was music.
So yeah, I went from like high school with like no, like everything was like D's and F's. So I was like, oh fuck, I'm ruined already. Managed to get into this college in Watford called West Herts on the music programme as like a last reserve type thing. Like they called up on the day of induction, was like someone didn't come, like okay, we can fit you in, because obviously my grades were terrible. Got in, did really well at that, and then went to the ICMP in Kilburn. Like which was attached to like the whole tech school thing, wasn't it, at the time? And did a 3-year degree, and then by the end of it, I was really busy doing loads of function stuff and like some little artisty things.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just kind of got a call one day for a really cool gig.
And so what kind of age were you when you kind of picked up an instrument for the first time? Because you said your dad was quite into it.
He sort of always had, like, he still has like maybe 2 or 3 really nice custom shop Strats, and he can just about play like Hotel California badly, and then gets to a certain point and goes, oh, I forgot that chord, and starts again. So it's always been around, and like, you know, one of them ones, and then just goes and builds a car or whatever. So it was always there when I was a kid, and like, I remember he took me to see Eric Clapton when I was really young, like this big.
Where was that? Do you remember?
At the Royal Albert Hall.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
So one of my first gigs was like that, and like even because obviously I didn't see him very much, like especially when I was little, he'd kind of come back, and if Jules Holland was on, he'd like have it on loud and be a bit drunk, so I'd come down and sit and watch it with him. So that was definitely like, this is really cool. My dad thinks this is really cool.
Lots of positive associations.
Yeah, I want to do that. And obviously, like when you're backstage at like the pits at a racetrack, it's kind of like being backstage at a festival. Like it's kind of, it feels really similar. So there'd be like bands on, and like half-naked women and people drinking and a bit of explosion. Like, it was all just kind of the same thing. So all just sort of made sense, really. And then when I started playing, I was like, which was about 13, because I didn't answer the question yet.
Okay.
It's about 13 when I started playing guitar, and then but always kind of didn't. I was like, it's not quite what I'm hearing in my head. And then one day I grabbed a bass and I was like, oh, this is the thing that I've been trying to do.
And what made you pick up the bass? Just because there was one there?
Yeah,
or?
Chris Butlin was ill that day and he left his bass in school, and I just picked it up and I was
Thank
like,
you,
oh,
Chris.
shit. Yeah, thanks, mate. So I grabbed his P bass and I was like, oh, this is what I've been hearing in my head. And then I obviously had to convince my dad to buy me a bass then, you know.
Did that take long?
I think after they came to a school concert and I played Chris's bass and he was like, okay, you can do this. So I played your bass.
So the school band was the first kind of playing together with other people?
Yeah. I mean, and there's sort of two friends, I saw them yesterday, like one's a lawyer and the other one's an engineer.
Okay.
And like...
They're still playing?
No. Well, actually, one of them... Well, they play a little bit, but like they don't really gig out. They just kind of play a bit and, you know...
I find that really weird, though, and possibly because I came at music in a different way, but people who learn instruments, how can you not keep playing it?
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they're sort of... Like, Jay does, like, some function stuff, like, but that's, like, he's like a weekend warrior. I don't think he might be saying that either. He's why I have tinnitus in my right ear, because he got this really ridiculous China crash when we were a kid, and we were in there, and I was, shh.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's making my ear kind of vibrate.
My ear is still ringing, and it's still there. So that was sort of like my first little band thing. I don't even know what it was called. I just kind of had a really good teacher as well when I was young. A guy called Paul Westwood.
Okay.
Who played for Elton John and did loads of BBC sessions, and like I remember the coolest thing I thought he did was playing on the Only Fools and Horses soundtrack.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, see, he's on that, and he wrote this book called The Bass Bible, which is like this big.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's like grey. It's full of exercises, and so I studied with him for like 2 or 3 years, and he just like he'd play piano the whole time and just shout things at me like shift, change position, that's the wrong fucking chord tone, and I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry, Paul. And
yet you thought he was a really good teacher.
He was a really, really, really good teacher, but he'd just kind of yell at me if I got it wrong.
So he'd give you a hard time, but obviously.
Yeah, no, but obviously,
kick up the arse.
Yeah, but like when I'd get it right, he'd be like, awesome, you know, like, and I'd really feel like I'd achieved, because if he told me I'd done well, I definitely had, because he was like hardcore, like jazz guy, done loads of studio sessions, you know, like here's the dots, first take, could do it. So his expectations were really high, which definitely helped. He didn't baby me at all. He just called me an arsehole half the time until I was kind of good.
When did you kind of move away from the school band and start doing other projects? Were there people in school who were kind of into music in the same way as you were? Or?
Not really. I just kind of like, I just kind of fumbled through it for a bit, and then I think I even did some weekend courses at the tech school as well, because obviously like so dyslexic, so bad at school, the fact that I had this thing I wanted to do, my mum and dad were just like, go and do it, you know, like, so they were just really encouraging, which is amazing. It wasn't really till I got to college where I started like playing with other people a lot more and doing band stuff.
I suppose if there's a load of people specifically there to do music, it's going to be
it's a different thing.
Yeah, as opposed to the school thing, I was like the weird guy with the guitar. It would just go and practice during lunchtime and stuff, but then it kind of wasn't weird anymore. So no, it's good.
I think it's unusual to find a group of people in a school setting who do that. But my cousin's husband was in a school that had, I would guess, probably there are 10 people who went on to careers in music, and to have it from
that's
12,
that's
13,
really unusual.
14.
I'm the only one that I know of. Actually, one other guy from my school is he came second at Young Drummer of the Year, like years ago. Obviously, I think you have to be under 16 for that. And then I think he does a lot of like TV production now, but I don't ever really see him. But like Jay still sees him. So, but yeah, like from school though, everyone else just kind of got real jobs, and I haven't really seen any of them since. You know, like bye. But I think actually I bumped into some guys from my class at a festival once, and they were like, Dave, and I was like, hi, who? Oh, it's them. Okay, like I haven't seen you in 10 years. Who are you? So I think I just kind of got very lucky with the whole thing. I studied with Rob Mullarkey for a little while. Do you guys know?
No. It's a great name though.
Yeah, he's playing bass for Jacob Collier right now. You know that like whiz kid that plays everything.
Right, okay.
and does loads of sessions and like plays with Natalie Williams and like did 07, and he's amazing. So like basically like he doesn't really teach, and it was probably like 7 years ago, and my friend gave me his number and was like, if you call him, I'll give you a lesson. So I called on like a Monday, and he's like, I haven't got my diary right now, like can you call back next week?
Yeah.
So I did, and this went on for 4 months until he was like, okay, just come to my house, like here's the address, 50 quid, like 11 o'clock, like next week. And I was like, okay. So I'm glad I was persistent, because it blew my mind.
You hear that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Really?
This is because people don't, you know, people who are so busy.
Yeah, he fully didn't want to and just fobbed me off.
Yeah.
But he should have just said, I don't teach.
Yeah.
So I just bugged him. I was like, he's not said no, so I'm just going to keep on bugging him until he says yes.
But that's an interesting kind of personality trait, because it
What,
serves
mine or
you
his?
No,
No,
yours.
Oh, I suppose so.
The tenacity and like not taking no.
Well,
because most people do. Most people will be like, I had to go and do a lecture at university, like final year course, and the friend who was kind of overseeing the course said, all these kids think that they can just send emails out and they'll get a job.
No, it's not at all like that. I mean, it's obviously getting work now. It's like it's so hard. Like, you know, you really have to just like graft and know people and like have a thing, and then and you almost can't ask for things because people are like, oh no, that can't ask. So you have to like just it's a very fine balancing act. Really. But yeah, I'm glad I did that, because like he fully blew my mind at that age, and like I was really grateful for.
How old were you when you saw?
23, 24, I don't know.
Okay, so that was post.
Just finished uni, but like getting into stuff, and like was doing a bit, but still didn't really have like what felt like a good handle on my instrument. Like in a way that he just can improvise, and like, you know, amazing ear and just such a wealth of knowledge of like music and parts and styles, and just to sort of be there and be like, when you're doing that, what's going on and how are you thinking about that? And him talking about time feel and groove and sort of playing things out of time on purpose. And
it's more the musicality.
Very much, not like,
because
I kind of had that all down from Paul when I was really young. Like I got through uni, a lot of the technique and sort of harmony stuff, I was like, I know this. It's just kind of the playing it in a musical way rather than it just kind of being.
So did you?
Music by numbers.
Did the university course kind of give you more tools, or was it just like 3 years where you got to build up your repertoire of?
Yeah, kind of that. I mean, it's funny because like I don't want to badmouth the whole schooling system, because it's great and I'm glad I went, but I have a lot of friends that didn't go as well, and they're equally awesome. So I guess it just depends on your sort of friendship circles and who you hang out with. But for me, the main thing I found was they were always trying to sort of push me to be like a sort of blander kind of, you know, like just to be like a session player, which I was like, well, that's kind of what I want to do, but I want to do it like, I want to have my sound.
Have less character, because then you're likely to get more jobs.
Yeah.
Which is not true
nonsense.
at all. Like, it's so bullshit. And there's there's plenty of guys you hear like, and there's like 15 of them and they all sound the same, you know, and it's, you know, even if, I don't know, I'd just rather sound like myself, you know.
That's it, yeah. And the problem is that when you've got 15 guys and they all sound the same, how do you choose between them?
The one you know, the one that's free, the one that's cheaper.
Yeah.
You know,
the one that's got the right haircut for the gig.
The one that's not annoying. I don't know, like, there's so many ways around it. I mean, because I basically, from sort of, I think halfway through uni, I kind of was like, I really want to just play an old P-bass with flat wounds. And like I want to do this whole Pinot thing and try and get my head around that. And then obviously I go to uni and they're like, what, you can't play this thing? Like, and I'm like, but I really fucking want to. Like, you know, like, fine, I don't want to turn up and slap like Marcus Miller, so like...
Yeah. Buy a Warwick.
Well, no, it was more like buy a jazz or something. What was that?
I don't know. Who made that noise?
I hope it
Was it the camera?
Yeah.
It's doing... has it run out of battery? Oh, that's really great.
Well... There we go.
Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Keep talking, because we got that one, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think there's another battery that I can stick in there. So
yeah. So that whole thing was really like, it was just really weird, really. So yeah, I kind of came out of that like angry a little bit. That I'd been sort of, I remember this whole class on tapping, and I had this, you know, a 65p that I'd managed to buy with like really dead flats on, and they're like, two-handed tapping, and I was like, I really don't.
Yeah, I'm never going to use.
I don't want to learn this. And I remember the tutor being like, when you're demoing at the bass show, and I was like, don't ever want to demo at the fucking bass show. I was like, I'm going to leave, and I left the class. I was like, this isn't.
Was that his kind of ideal gig, demoing at the bass show?
I think he just thought that was sort of. I guess he was just trying to be positive. I was just being a belligerent arsehole, you know, and was like, but I was like, I think I need to go because I don't want to do it, and like we're going to disagree, and I'm just going to disrupt the class. So, yeah, you know, what can you do?
Well, sometimes you just gotta go.
Yeah. Is it working, Steve?
Yeah, I'll get it back to working properly.
So how did you first start getting actual sort of session stuff?
I mean, it's really funny. Like, I was sort of doing things through like friends at uni, like a little bit, and yeah, like some kind of cool stuff. But then the main, like the big thing really was when I started playing for Eyre. That was like the first like proper gig, and I'm still doing it now. And it's you know.
When was that?
I've been playing for Eyre for like 5.5 years, which I didn't
long
realise.
time.
Yeah, like fucking ages, which is unusual.
Yeah.
And really cool. Yeah, like I'd given a friend a bunch of work that I couldn't do. And then, you know, he was having a hard time and he's really good. And like, I just was like, here you go. Like, do you want to do this? Because I don't want to do it. I can't do it. Something to do with like an ex-girlfriend involved. And I was like, oh, not fucking doing that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave him the gig. And then a friend of his from school, got asked to do it and was looking for a band and asked him and he couldn't do it. But, this guy's really cool. Like, why don't you ask Dave?
Right.
And that was like Wednesday. And then we did this like sort of 2.5 week tour type thing, and on the Sunday, like 4 days later, she's number one, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And he called me and was like, fuck, and I was like, but that was kind of like my in, really, because before that I was just sort of doing some artist stuff, doing some recording, but like in a much more kind of niche sort of way. I mean, there was a lot of things involved with it. They were like, do you play synth? And I didn't have a synth, and I was like, yeah, and I
just buy it, learn it.
And I bought a synth and kind of like was in rehearsal like can
YouTube.
Somebody, and I was like, can somebody help? And he was like, you got it right. I was like, yeah, you'll learn. And I was like, yeah.
YouTube.
Can somebody? And I was like, can somebody help? And he was like, you got it right. I was like, yeah, you'll learn. And I was like, yeah. So he like programmed all the sounds and stuff, and yeah. But I mean, you know,
there was no kind of sort of audition or anything like that. It was literally just like, here's a guy who can do it.
Can you do it? Is he good? Okay, and that's how a lot of it works. I mean, there is lots of stuff where you audition, but I've never really auditioned for anything like this. I've done a couple of things, but then like they're almost like casting calls in a way.
Yeah.
I did one recently, and I was like, why the fuck am I here? I almost wanted to go because I was like, I'm obviously like 5 years too old for this gig now, you know, like, and actually probably won't do it for the money that they're offering anyway. So it tends to be through friends and stuff and people being like, do you want to do this? Like, and like someone who's respected their recommendation is worth anything. And also, you know, you've done stuff before and like, yeah, so kind of works that way, which is much nicer than having to go into a room and sweat your fucking balls off and like, and be bad, because no one auditions that well, I don't think.
Oh, no,
it's
no.
such an unnatural... You know, it's such an unnatural kind of like stressful environment. You haven't got your stuff. You don't. It's hard.
It's like the beginning of this.
It's always awkward.
Yeah, exactly. But you only have like 10,
how do we start?
You have like 15 minutes, and there's like there's some girl from the label there with her laptop, like, and someone else like looking at you like, and maybe the artist, and they're like, oh, this is the 10th person I've seen today. Who the fuck? I don't care.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm really hungover. What? Like, it's a difficult thing. So yeah, I think in a lot of those things, if you can get in the room in a real environment, you're kind of, if you can do it, you're fine, I guess.
Yeah. Up and running.
This is a question for my own curiosity rather than anything else. When you go into rehearsal for
like the first time,
for the first time, how often do you get the material beforehand? And how often is it like rock up and okay, we're gonna arrange this? I mean, I'm asking you to, make a declaration on this percentage. That's not what I meant. I mean, is it?
It's kind of like probably like 70-30. Like mostly you get stuff ahead of time. Sometimes you don't. But then like with Ella, sometimes we don't always get stuff ahead of time. But then we know each other really well, and it's the workflow with that is really easy.
Right.
So like even it's because the main issue is like, can the MD get the stems from the producer or management in time to give you them? You know, like, so you might have just heard the song, you might also not have anything, like, because he might be far too busy programming other stuff. If it's all, if he's held up by them, then obviously you just have to be like, cool, because you're like, you know, so he's sort of like 10 steps behind you anyway, so there's no point in you being like, what am I playing, because he's like, I haven't finished programming the track yet. So yeah, sometimes you just have to walk in and get it really quickly, which can be stressful. Or
yeah, I was going to say that must be kind of stressful, because if you keep on making mistakes or you go to the wrong section or something like that,
just don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't fuck up. I remember like I had a really annoying one like a couple of years ago where like I shouldn't say any names. Anyway, so like I got sent like MP3s of everything, and I was asking, is there any stems? Oh no, we haven't got any, like you should be able to hear everything that's there. And I was like, okay, cool. And I get to rehearsal and the MD's like, oh, you haven't like done this bit in this song. And I was like, what bit? Like I can't hear it, it's fully buried in the track. And he pulls up the stem and there was like a full, like there was like a main sort of synth part that I replicated on bass with some effects, but he was actually wanting me to play this like kind of guitar, like this sort of guitar-y bass part with a pick, like so which then I had to like learn in the room in front of everyone, and it was quite tricky, and like
everyone's sitting there with their
arms
crossed
and I was just kind of like, I was like, I was so angry. I was like, you fucking prick. Like, I really wanted to just be like, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
Look what you know, I just was livid. So
which doesn't help learning the part.
Well, obviously I just sat there and said fuck all and just learnt it as quickly as I could, and then was like, can I have a cigarette now? Cool. Like, and then came back. But yeah, like that does happen occasionally, but it's obviously very unprofessional to tell them to their face.
Yeah.
They've really pissed you off. But that's just that's life in general, isn't it? So
yeah.
I think a lot of it is just being able to learn stuff quickly and be calm and not like get stressed out, because obviously it affects your ability to play like with good feel and good sound. If you're like, so you just kind of have to
relax into it,
just chill.
And you said that you have a natural ability to pick things up quickly anyway.
Yeah, I think that's mostly just down to like how my brain works, and like I've always had a pretty good ear, and like I didn't read till much later. So like on my university audition, there's a guy called Jack Daubney who was in my class, but like I didn't know him at the time. So we had like 5 parts, and one was they're going to give you a piece and you're going to like have 15 minutes to prepare it, and it was like a funk bass line. So here's the music, you can't hear it. So like I'd done everything else really well, like, and then I get to this bit and you're in a room and they're like, cool, we'll come get you in 15 minutes. Here's the part. And I just started looking at it. I was like, oh, fuck, like this is it. I can't do this, because at the time I just didn't read anything. And then like I hear a count off in a room next door, and luckily they're not like, I think they just had some kind of room complications, and he was right next door playing this piece, and I was like, this is exactly what he's played. So from the once that he played it, I managed to like walk like a sort of 24 bar thing. I managed to walk in and then play it like instantly from that, and they were like, oh, you read that really, really well, and then gave me some other sort of simple thing that I kind of struggled with but just about got by. But
because you said earlier you were dyslexic.
Yeah, like very.
You find, because I am too, and I know quite a lot of people that are, and you find that your ear is a lot better.
Yeah.
Because you've had to kind of rely on
I mean,
it.
I didn't read and write till I was like 11. It was really bad. I was sort of stuck in the foreign class until one teacher was like, hang on, you're dyslexic, here you go.
Yeah.
And then I just got it. So like, yeah, I think if I didn't have a good ear, I would, be fucked. Because, you know, yeah, it definitely helps now though to be able to get things quickly. And
when does the things change much once you're on the road on tour, or is it just like it's lockdown, everybody just same thing every night? What do they do?
Like the arrangements don't change too much from time to like occasionally maybe things will change, but like once you start, you know, you do like whatever a month rehearsal, and then you sort of start the show and you go on this tour. Like generally, like the arrangements are the same, but I try and not just. I really get bored playing the same thing exactly. So, you know, I'll just, you know, there's obviously parts in the song where like it's just kind of feel or groove. So that will vary. And if the band's really good, then you can all kind of play around a little bit. But like within a very musical, not getting in the way and not overplaying sense, more just like taking a different approach. Or occasionally I'll just be like, today I'm going to play this song with this pedal, not this one, change the drives. But that's just purely for my own kind of sanity. I think when you're doing something for a long time, it can get really boring otherwise. So, well, I find I just sort of start to switch off, which is not good.
No,
So,
yeah.
Well, that's like pit musicians, isn't it?
yeah.
Reading a book while they're doing a show.
I couldn't imagine doing that. I think I'd.
Yeah,
But then I have friends that do, and they're great at it, and I think they sound great when they do it. But I don't get the headspace of,
It's
you know.
bizarre.
Yeah.
I guess you just need to get there to understand it.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you play the same thing 10 times, and you're like, I'm kind of over this.
Well, yeah, like
Venues look kind of similar, crowd look kind of similar. Songs
like
always the same.
The arena tours are the funniest ones because like I love it, but I also kind of get it's like Groundhog Day, like again and again and again. You're in a similar sized room with the same 80 people, that you've been hanging out with, and all that happens is like the jokes just get dirtier and dirtier, and more sort of dumb stuff happens, and so you can be like, oh, you're really hungover too, great, but like it's the general day-to-day thing is like get up, go to hotel, breakfast, whatever, catering, lunch, sound check, hang around, do a gig, get drunk, just gets really but it's also like the shows are always great, but
you've got like an hour and a half of
or like
the whole of the day is geared around that hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very like.
Is it, what do you like after post show? Do you have like a routine or anything?
So the first thing I always do, and I have been doing this for quite a while now, is just like I roll a cigarette immediately and have a beer, and I walk outside, and everyone's always like talking, and I'll just go and like have 10 minutes to myself. I just feel like for me, I have to like get quite calm and like ground myself to get on stage like that. So to then come out of that, like I'll walk off stage and I just don't really say anything, and then go and have a minute for myself. Where other guys are all like, wow, that's amazing, and I'm just like, just fuck off. Give me a second, I need to be like very grounded. So that's just my general thing of just like digesting what just happened, which sometimes is awesome and sometimes something really, like something that didn't work and you're like, fuck, or so fucked up, or you fucked up, which is obviously then you're like berating yourself for like 10 minutes, like, oh man, I made that terrible mistake, Yeah, so that's my general thing, and then just like, whatever, have some dinner, go hang out, meet some friends, whatever, Try not to drink too much and stay up till 3 in the morning, and that can also happen, so.
Yeah. Is it kind of hard not to?
No, not at all. Like, it just depends really, like what sort of tour. Some tours, everyone drinks, everyone has hot chocolate, it just depends on the people around you. Kind of obviously that, like, it just gets boring sometimes, so like go and do something, go out to the bar, but you obviously can't turn up to like be hungover every day on that's not good, so don't do that everywhere.
But is that something that everyone sort of goes through?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the
first few tours that you do.
Yeah, like the first few tours I did, I was just like, how do people do this? And then I realised it's because they don't stay up drinking every day. But you're all excited, and it's like first time, but you don't really want to be a functioning anything. You just want to be functioning. So I wouldn't recommend all that stuff. But it definitely happens. Like
And do you, when you come off stage, obviously you're assuming you've had a good gig.
Yeah.
You've got so much adrenaline pumping around your body.
But it feels really normal now. Like I remember the first sort of gigs I used to do, like I was like, but now it's kind of like just an average feeling, which is probably a bit weird. It's like it's obviously amazing. There's all these people, like, you play a great gig, it feels great, but it's not like.
So is the high on stage not as high as it was? So it's more, so it's everything's sort of leveled out.
Yeah, it's kind of bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't really get like nervous in a way that's uncomfortable anymore. Like I might just notice a little bit of like something there, but that's like 30 seconds now. Unless it's like the first gig on the tour, or like I know something's going to go wrong, or like, oh, that song, I don't quite know that bit. Then I'm like uncomfortable. But if I know it, it's just like, oh, it's stage time. And I think that's kind of what happens to a lot of people. I don't know, I assume.
Going to work.
Yeah, just like nothing. And then you kind of come off and you're like, cool, that's done now. Should we go and, I'll go and see my friends that came to see the show, or. Yeah, it kind of is quite normal feeling.
I've heard
weird
various stories about him and how he does things on set. I've met him a couple of times, but Dave Grohl, apparently, he must have been Liam Gallagher.
Okay.
So a friend of mine plays in Liam Gallagher's band.
Cool. So does mine.
And he was talking to him about like sausages and how he makes his own sausages. and then someone ran up to Dave and said, "You need to go on."
Oh, and he's like, cool.
And he said, "Oh, okay." And then he came, like, did the gig, came back, and so anyway, the sausages, straight back into the sausages.
Yeah, because it's just kind of a really.
And that's almost the ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it for how long? Like 30. How old is he now?
I don't know. He must be 50.
Yeah, it must say like, and that was all like in the early 90s. Yeah, it must be like 30 something years of that. So it's very normal. Yeah, I guess your brain adjusts to the whole thing, and it's not such a big deal. I'm sure there's like loads of like adrenaline happening and like chemical and emotional stuff, but it just feels far more normal than it did the first time. Like the first time I played like a really big festival, I was just like, shit, fuck, there's all these people, and I'm gonna fuck up, and my hands were shaking, like in a way that I was like, I can't really play that thing that I was gonna go for because I'm gonna fuck it up, but that kind of passes eventually. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
How long did it take for your nerves to calm on that particular gig?
They didn't really. I
Oh,
was
yeah,
just the whole way through. I was just like, no, probably like the last, like the last 40 minutes or the last half an hour. I was like, okay, I'm kind of in it.
And how long was your set then?
An hour and 20. So about halfway,
Okay.
I was just kind of like. Because I was playing fretless on that gig as well, and I was like, what am I fucking doing? Like, I'd been playing fretless all year, and I've played it forever, so but I hadn't ever done it in that environment where monitoring's not great, and like, it's like, I was like, this is going on TV, and if I fuck this up, everyone's going to see, and it's going to be on YouTube forever, and that was
someone's going to loop it, and just have like a 5-minute loop of you making a mistake.
Yeah, and like, if I just play that, so that was the main thing. I was like, what the fuck am I doing with this thing in my hands? Like, why did I do this to myself? I've made it so much harder. But, that...
That's the same response to any stressful situation, though, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just like, why did I do this? But that's not so much a thing now. I mean, there was a gig in Lithuania where my tech at the time, he used to smoke a lot of weed, and he used to have like 2 bags of tobacco, and because he'd like travel with some, he'd write magic on one and like grind it all up and just put it in the tobacco. And there's like a section in the set where like with Ella, where like there'd be like a sort of 7-minute piano vocal thing, so we'd always walk off and I'd have a cigarette, and I'd left mine in the hotel, so I was like, oh Matt, can I have a cigarette? Gives me the wrong bag, I didn't even know, roll it up, light it, and I was like shit, and like it was really strong, so I probably had like 3 or 4 tokes, and then was like, I feel fucking mental. And I look at him and he's like, oh, I've given you the wrong bag. And then I just started getting, obviously like, I probably wasn't even in that high, but like in that environment, the paranoia and like the anxiety hit me like crazy. And then I had to go out and play like another 6-7 songs, and I was just like, everyone's looking at me. Of course they are, fuck. That was terrifying. That was really terrifying, actually. That was probably my most scary kind of, and then I walk off and I was like, oh god,
survived.
It's fine, no one died, so
that's the thing, you just have to kind of hang on until it finishes, because it always finishes.
And you also don't want to be like in a sort of semi-anxious state, otherwise you wouldn't enjoy it, so I guess you want to just try and do whatever you need to do to like be comfortable. Like for me, like I have no like ambience or crowd noise in my ear mix at all. I actually don't really often have vocals.
Okay.
Because like I have loads of drums and loads of bass and like everybody else, but if there's like a mic walking around, like sort of everything starts to get a bit weird, and you can't hear attack points on the drums so much. So,
but you can presumably hear enough.
Yeah, she's
ambient.
like, they're always bleeding in through like the overheads a little bit, so I know what's going on. But if they turned around and like said something to me, I'd have to be like, what? But that makes me feel quite calm, because you can't hear like 10,000-20,000 people just chattering away and shouting.
It might just be the 3 of us that I can hear in my...
That's kind of it. So on a big gig, it still sounds like I'm sitting in like a rehearsal studio or recording studio, and I really like that, because there's just like, it's at least in my head, it's like a small quiet place with guys playing, as opposed to like screaming people, and lots of bouncy reverb. So I think that kind of helps me stay quite calm.
I think a lot of musicians do that though, don't they? They have to have like a sort of comfy, safe place.
That's like,
and you want it to be the same every single night.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, then you just like, damn, I don't want to deal. I can't deal with this. There's so much
going on anyway, so you want to just kind of try and keep everything kind of simple, so there's less to think about, I guess. For me anyway, that works really well.
What's weird is for the front person.
Yeah, they have to have shitloads of, but then they always have this like elated, like amazing gig because there's like they can hear everyone screaming and singing back to them, but I'm just like, oh, okay.
Don't need that.
Yeah, no, it's just, like that sort of almost goes over my head at times because you can't hear it, so almost.
I'm going to be able to go to sleep tonight. You're probably not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's I guess it's always changing as well of what's more comfortable and so.
And what about the dreaded transition between on tour, off tour?
Oh yeah, so I just got home like last week from like a sort of 2.5 week thing, and I just feel like I'm settled now, which is really weird.
Okay.
It's sort of I was like, this is taking a while, but
And how does that manifest itself? Like, what happens when you come off?
I just go out and like if I'm not straight back into something, which I haven't been this time, then you just I just tend to try and keep myself busy, but it's hard to get a routine again. And I've just done all my laundry, and just feel a bit like just you're not quite settled yet, And then if you're back and forth all the time, then you just indefinitely aren't settled anywhere, which I had for a good few years, and that was awful. It's kind of fun, but like when you're home, you're like, oh, I'm not really here long enough to do anything, or
just don't feel settled.
Yeah, just never. Like always out of a case, even though you're not out of a case, or.
And it's when you're on tour, like you say, it's the same 80 people that I've
on
been
like on like an arena tour or something. It's all the same people, apart from like the guests that might come along. But you're sort of in this very small little community,
bubble of people.
Yeah, fully like.
And everything's done, kind of.
Yeah, and you get to know everyone really, really well, which is like because you share this big thing. So you're like, it's a really weird environment to be in, and there's people screaming at you. Like it's a really weird, I think it's a healthy environment to live in, or at least if you know it's not healthy, that's a good thing, I guess. But
yeah, you need to be mindful of it, even if you you can. Being in a burning building is not particularly healthy.
Yeah, I guess if you know,
But if you kind of know if you're there for a reason and you know that you're not going to stay in there when it gets really dangerous, then you can
tolerate it.
Yeah. Yeah, you need the protective clothing and.
I definitely had a lot of issues with like depression when I first started doing it, and there's the whole thing of like you sort of use up all your endorphins in this 1 hour and a half, and you're like, why do I feel so sad all the time? I don't know if everyone gets it, but I definitely did at first, and that's.
And is that while you're on the road, or when you come off?
Well, while you're on the road, and then you go home, and you're like, oh, now I've got nothing that makes me really happy. Yeah. So to kind of get, I had therapy and stuff. Like after we had like this very long stretch, and I was like, what's going on? And they just thought, this lady just explained, oh, you're basically taking heroin, or it's the same thing on your brain in a way. So it's a lot, I wouldn't change it, I guess. I'm used to it now, but it can be very.
What kind of things did you do to begin with to sort of combat that? Or did you
drink loads? And
right.
I just was younger, so I was just like sort of do the things people do when they're young and stupid. And
I feel better when I do this, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah, this makes me feel nice, so I'll do that kind of thing, really, which definitely is not a good idea.
And how long did it take for you to think, okay, this isn't actually making me feel better, or
longer than it should have done? I don't know, like a year, 18 months. Yeah.
And what made you go and look for someone to talk to about?
Well, I had a blood clot in my lung and got really ill. Haven't I told you this before?
No, not about the blood clot.
No, I had one when I was on tour, and that was all kind of because I wasn't looking after myself. So I ended up having surgery, like an emergency thing over Christmas, and then. Yeah, so I then was like, okay, this is.
Maybe I should do something about
it. Really,
it.
Stop doing that and sort of took stock. But that was a really kind of good eye-opening thing. Bit heavy.
Yeah.
That was it Steve Vai who was playing for? I can't remember who was playing.
Frank
Zappa.
That's.
And he just did everything and took everything, and they had to wheel him on stage in a wheelchair or something.
I mean, I know
it
was
a
stage act.
He was absolutely mashed.
I don't think things are that rock and roll in general anymore. The only gig I've heard of being that way is like Queens of the Stone Age, is apparently is exactly what you think it's supposed to be.
Right.
But like most kind of, it's sort of not tolerated now in a way. Like at least within session musicians, bands, obviously, people do dumb shit, and like people have affairs and that all you know, you hear about that all the time.
That's human beings though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess if you put people in an environment where they're in a sort of constant party and they're stuck together and there's alcohol and possibly drugs and they don't see their partners for 6 months, I guess it does happen, which is a shame. But yeah, but like the sort of general like rock and roll debauchery doesn't really seem to be that common anymore. I think people get fired for doing that kind of stuff now.
Well, it's a professional thing now.
It has to be, right? Yeah,
and
like,
it has to be efficient because otherwise you're not making money.
Yeah, exactly. And like the whole thing of like throwing things out of hotel room windows, I've never done that. I really wish I had thrown a TV out a window, but I never have. I don't think I probably ever will. I won't say never, but you know,
maybe you could just buy a cheap TV.
Just do it when I get home.
Yeah.
Throw it off the balcony
Just
when
a really
I get home.
small one.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, I mean, obviously there's like dumb stuff happens and like, but nothing that horrific, you know.
So far.
Yeah, so far. There's plenty of time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know.
We've covered most of the questions, I think. That's going to sound really great on this mic.
Yeah.
Have you got any kind of side projecty things other than...
Yeah, so like for a long time I didn't really have a lot of time to do a lot of that, but now like I'm working on a lot of production stuff. This is my main thing. I want to learn how to do all that, so that's kind of my main thing, because obviously I don't want to always be dependent on touring. So
that was going to be one of the follow-up questions.
Yeah, this is something that I'm working on now. I have friends that have been doing this for a couple of years. I think I was just I didn't really want to for a little while. Yeah, and I have a few projects with friends, but like nothing that like is worth talking about yet. But yeah, I just try and play and like, you know, yeah, just do. I do quite a bit of recording like from home and with friends as well, which is kind of a nice thing. Yeah, just like you know, just be a musician, play my bass. It sort of makes me really happy, and I'm always like, how's this my job? How does this pay for my flat? Like,
you got to make the decision now. Do I do lessons or don't I do lessons? Or do I say I don't do lessons and then the guy has to call me up 3 times?
See, I'd rather that one, because like I did teach a bit when I was younger, but like really in general I was like, oh, I hate this. There's one guy I taught that I still like know really well now, and that's awesome. But he was really good, and it was like when I sort of would show him things, I could see that it was going in. Yeah. So like you don't really want a bunch of guys that are like, what? Like that sort of.
Yeah, if somebody's that, you know, persistent, poking you, like asking you to teach them, then you know they're going to actually pull their finger out.
Because I would sort of like, I have videos on my phone still of like, if they'd be like, oh, how did you play that? And like film it and stuff from like, you know, 8 years ago, whatever it was. So yeah, I don't really like, I mean, I have friends that teach at colleges and stuff. I might when I'm older, I don't know, I don't really want to go there yet. Because I feel like if you start doing something that can take you away from what you want to do, and like there's the whole thing of playing loads of functions, and I have friends who do lots of that, and I do a few, but I mean I could do lots more, I guess, but I almost don't want to yet, because it feels like you step out of one thing and into another, you know, like energy goes where it flows and all that kind of thing. So,
and especially with the function thing, if a gig comes along and you're not there, then you're going to get depth.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if the depth's around, then you're not going to.
Yeah, I mean it kind of works either way, but like, yeah. So some of my friends, I think like a few of my friends earn way more than I do doing like loads of function stuff, but I'm kind of happier playing the music, like being creative with music rather than playing at someone's wedding. I think I don't know. I don't think I'd be happy doing that all the time.
It would be nice if you could choose to do, you know.
Yeah, I mean there's always a bit of a balance. I sort of do a little bit, but as much as I can handle, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, practically it's not that simple, is it? I mean, you certainly juggled.
Yeah, I was doing function stuff for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I only stopped last summer, and that was just because I was looking at the schedule, and it was, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and then there was ones we're doing in different countries.
Yeah, and then you've got to fly, and that's always really fun as well.
And then running a business and having a family, and you get home and it's just you're tired zombie dad on a Sunday, you know.
Yeah, because you got home from your gig at 3 a.m. last night, and
and have done like a full week of work, and so then just end up crabby and shouty, and that's not nice.
And you look kind of transparent as well.
Yeah, and all the money that you've made at the gig, you just spend on like guilt presents because you haven't been around.
Right. So I would just spend that all on pedals, I suppose, like at the moment. But like,
we didn't talk about pedals at all.
We can talk about pedals.
You got any particular favourites?
First pedal.
First pedal. Apart from a tuner, I had a Boss OC2 because that was the thing that like every bass player probably has an OC2 or some kind of octave pedal.
That must mean I'm a bass player.
Yeah, right, exactly. Is it like a really early one?
Yeah.
You know, the ones that say octaver,
Yeah.
that's the best one. At one point I had like 9 of those things. You know, because they were really cheap for a long time. They were like sort of 40, 50 quid.
I bought mine for 30 quid second hand.
Exactly, and now like they're like 180, 200 pounds. Yeah, like because the OC3 is like the reissue one that like you can buy now, but you want the 81 to 87 kind of, you know, that sort of bracket. And so at one point I had like 9 of them, and then when they sort of went up in money I was like, I'll keep these 3, so, you know, which I'm quite glad about. I do loads of pedals actually. It's like a big part of what I do. Kind of like I have a huge board that's way too big really, but I use it all because, you know, like a lot of sort of modern pop music has lots of bass synths on it and stuff, and I don't always want to be stuck playing synth. Like it's
especially
not,
if you don't own one.
yeah, well, I own several now, but like, you know, it's not fine. It's not why. Shall I shut up?
No.
Okay. It's not why I started playing, was to play synth. So I try and do a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know, with lots of pedals. So like octaves, drives, filters, fuzzes, bit crushes. It's all kind of, you know. I have one of those gig rig G2 things.
Right. Yeah. They're good units. Those things.
Yeah, and just sort of try and do as much on the floor. So like with a lot of things I do, probably I'd be playing like 70% synth if I didn't have the board.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like a lot
that
of
much.
Yeah, like I reckon, because I tend to. On this tour I was just doing, there was one song where I played like there wasn't a song where I didn't use an effect on my bass or play synth, and the one that I did use an effect on my bass was like a really heavy flanger with a pick and a bit of bit crusher. But like, so even that sort of sounded more like a bass, but a lot of it is, you know, if it's like electronic music and there's a lot of filtering and, you know, like a lot going on, you just kind of can't play a bass and have it sound clean. So yeah, it just wouldn't work. They'd be like, oh, can you try it on synth and nail the sound? And like a lot of things I can do on my board, not maybe some of the more complex sounds, and that's when I go to synth. But yeah, so it's kind of a necessity really, I think. Otherwise I'd just be doing this the whole time. Yeah. You know, and there are guys that are really good at that, and I love the way they do it as well, but just for me it doesn't feel as fun or
whereas what you naturally would tend towards the bass because you spent all of your time doing that.
I've spent so many years with all this, so like is it stopped?
I don't know what's happened. It says it's still going, but the screen is completely black. A bit of a problem. Try again.
Yeah. Anyway, no. It's just, so like it sort of makes more sense. You know, like if I'd have played keys when I was a kid as well, and I was really good at it, maybe that would have made more sense to do that. But
have you ever got into kind of MIDI pickup and that sort of stuff?
Just sounds so. It doesn't track well. There's a few like MIDI synth pedals that I'm not really into at all. That some people use. Like the one thing that's been kind of getting my interest is audio to CV. So like there's like some units that will convert audio into CV and then running that through like a synth module, which is something that like a few people do, and I've kind of been fiddling with a bit, but I haven't got it quite right.
Absolute dumb question. What's CV?
Control voltage. So it's like pre-MIDI. It's how synths talk to each other pre-MIDI.
Okay.
So like it's kind of old. It's like valve amps to, you know,
right
to transistors like for synths. So that, like, when it's done right, can track a lot better and be much more musical.
It's quicker, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's almost, you know, it almost is like you're playing it, as opposed to, like, a lot of the MIDI things, sort of, there's a lot of, and, you know, if you're trying to play, like, a really tight bass part that's got a really slot in the pocket, and this thing's lagging, you just sound shit. So who cares if you've got a nice sound, because you can't play it in time.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing about latency, which is basically what you're talking about. Russell from Block Party he had so many pedals on his board, and lots of them were digital ones.
So was he getting latency through his board?
He didn't realise that, but there was a. That's so funny.
Oh, you got Battenbergs.
Oh my god.
5 mini Battenbergs. There we go.
Look
at that. We've got to show that to the camera.
That's amazing. So he was getting latency through his.
So when I made him a pedal board, and I played for the first time, and I thought, oh no, what on earth have I done to this thing? There's this huge latency, but he was so used to it and was obviously adding pedals incrementally that he would just play ahead. He played ahead. So, because he was, I mean, I've heard him on ears playing to the track, like playing with the rest of the band, and he plays ahead.
To compensate.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's really bizarre.
God, that's...
so if you actually fixed his latency problem, he'd be all
really
over the
ahead.
place.
He would be, yeah, stop rushing.
No one likes a Russian.
No.
It's not a good idea. Yeah, like a friend of mine runs like a Kemper rig with like a Lazy J, and I think he has to sort of compensate for the latency between the two. Like it's like a millisecond or two, but
right. So he puts a delay in line with the
with the mic, because he's like mega audiophile. Like he'll hear anything. He'll hear anything. He's the guy that I go and be like, does this sound as good as I think it does?
Mm-hmm.
And he's mostly like, yes, sometimes like, no, get rid of that piece of shit. He loved the big trees, by the way.
That's good.
Which is really good, because he would have he's like, he's very opinionated when he is, so like, this is amazing, which is nice.
I think it just sounds sort of how everyone wants something like that to sound.
Yeah, exactly, which is kind of perfect, really. And it works nicely as a DI as well and stuff, so.
And I'm working on the parallel. I am.
You heard about this?
Yeah.
So to make a clean, dirty fader, to use the green side and the red side at the same time and be able to fade between them.
Right.
Because that's what pretty much every bass player who's used it has said.
But that's like that blends pedal. That is that, right?
It is that, exactly, yeah. Yeah. The only thing is that the inputs to the green side and the red side at the moment toggle. They're not both fed at the same time.
Right.
So anyway. We'll get there.
Fun times.
We'll get there.
Anything else?
Should we ask the last question?
What's the last question? Tweet to myself.
Yeah, if you could tweet at your younger self or somebody kind of in your position, what would you...
Oh, that's a quite different thing though, because if it was to myself, I'd just say something like don't worry about it, it'll all be cool, like you'll get it. Because I was like, I lost like 5.5 stone when I was 17 and like had long hair and didn't. Yeah, I was like a really fat kid as well. This is also probably why I played loads of bass, because I was just like, well, no girls don't like me, I'm just gonna do this thing, and then so I'd be like, it's just keep it up, it'll be fine. To somebody else that was young, I'd probably just say put the time in, and don't be a dick. It's like a really
simple thing.
Yeah, like really put a shift in and like practice the important things like time. Like that's the one thing when I got to uni, like, that really pissed me off, and like they never really talked about time feel, or like it was almost just like you play on the click and that's but it's playing in time and playing with good feel aren't
it's
really
not the same. No.
It's not like they're sort of they're not the same thing. So yeah, they didn't really give that like enough. Like I remember one of the things Rob taught me was like putting on a metronome at like 45 BPM and just kind of playing quarter notes and then pulling it around the click. So like getting it really on, pulling it as far back as you could, putting it ahead, and then like pulling your swing around, like so playing sixteenths or triplets, and then applying swing at this really slow tempo where it's very unmusical and very difficult, and there's so much space to get it wrong.
Yeah.
But it's like if you
But
can
your brain's going 1,000 miles an hour trying to work out.
If you can do it at that with this much space, then this much space, it's way easier to fiddle with. So that was sort of the main thing. I did that for like a good 18 months, and I think that's probably the one thing that I wish I did at college. When I got out, I was like, oh god, I suck.
And something that you've not said, but I think is incredibly important, is attention to detail. Like when you do, you're not getting something right, don't go on to something else.
No, for sure. Like
keep hammering away.
Really, like I almost think, and this is something that Paul taught me as well. Like focusing on really small little things. Like one of the things I had for a while was I had like an inconsistency in volume to my two fingers, which is like sounds like it wasn't. It was very small, but you could hear it and you could see it on a recording. And when I first had that lesson with Rob, maybe like the third one, he just went, "Oh, that's why you sound shit." And I was like,
confidence boost here, please.
And he's like, "Oh no, sorry. So no, I just mean that's why you sound a bit wonky." And it was because like you're plucking harder with your second finger than your index, but not on every hit. Only when you start with that one. So, and then once we kind of fixed it, I was like,
so how did you fix it?
How did I fix it? I think I recorded myself playing eighth notes.
Yeah.
Like dum dum dum, and like with one finger, with this finger as well, and sort of just kind of spent more time getting this all consistent. Because I think I don't know if it's the same on guitar, but like on bass, you definitely learn your instrument through your left hand, and this just kind of keeps up. So I just spent a lot of time getting that all together, which took a while. It's like a really funny habit to unlearn as well. But
it's really those little habits that are just completely ingrained in the way you've sort of
or like doing a thing like I used to kind of tap kind of like on the snare hit, just kind of tap the string when I was younger, like sort of 17, 18, and when I kind of first started doing anything, it's like, don't fucking tap the pickup like in time with the snare, shut up, like no one needs to hear that. It's all these little things that you kind of get out, but
there is a bit of a balance, though, isn't there? Because you don't want to take away all of your characteristic mannerisms.
It's sort of like, I guess,
having you want to weed out the really bad stuff.
Having really positive characteristics that make you like how you like your vibrato or your your note choice or your phrase. That's all going to be good. But like anything that's sort of destructive to or makes you sound bad, anything
that's going to annoy anyone else, get rid of it.
If it's shit, get rid of it. Yeah, but like sort of. Also, the other thing I found at uni was I was such a clean, clinical player, and then I spent ages trying to play shit, but good shit, which is sort of that took time to learn.
Funk in the kind of.
Or just play in a dirtier way. Like you listen to loads of records and you hear like bass stems and stuff, and they're never as perfect as you think they are. They're actually at times quite messy, and that's why it really works. So there's that as well.
It depends what your intent is when you're playing it, doesn't it? Is it to get all the notes right, or is it to say something or to lend a feel to
which is kind of, if you get a vibe, then it's like it doesn't, I made a mistake, but it's the vibe's still there, so it's kind of, if it's not horrific, then that's fine.
If I find if it is too clinical, then it just sounds like music.
It just sounds boring. You could just quantize it. And
exactly.
That doesn't ever really sound. It sounds nice, but it doesn't sound at all individual or special. So it's better if you can do it yourself without having to hit a button. You don't have that live anyway, so just have that at home when no one's looking.
Humans like to hear humans, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And you can really hear that whole thing. So that's what I would say to my younger self. All of that.
There you go.
And if you could do it the other way around, if your younger self could tweet at you, that was a long tweet, by the way.
That was like 10 tweets.
Yeah.
If my youngest, if I could,
if yourself then could see you now, what would you then say to you now?
Dude, what strings are you using on your bass? Like it's something dumb like that. Like, what,
That's so funny. Jay said the same thing, just like party on, dude.
Just something dumb. I don't know, nothing at all valuable, surely.
So what we can draw from this study of two is that you think you've become smarter as you've gone through your years, which is great. That's thumbs up.
You'd hope so, right?
Like, you'd like to.
I'd know more about, or at least I know more about strings than ask.
How do you not know what I'm playing? You can tell it from 100 yards.
I mean, I can now. I couldn't then. So I think that's the general vibe. I don't know.
Cool. That's good. That's valid.
Cool.
We're done. Thank you.
We have some Battenberg.
Let's
rip into these things then.